Hi. Sorry, my camera stand's decided not to stand up anymore. So, just see if I can make that work. Oops. No, there we go. Is anybody there? I bought this online and for some reason its joints don't like holding together very well. So it keeps doing nosedives at the moment. I think I'll have to have get a better one. There we go. So who's that there that I've got? Oops. Who's watching on this beautiful day? I've got two of you now. Oh, hello Jill. Nice to see you. Hello Moana. I was just apologising, I've been having trouble with my stand. I bought it online and it's been working brilliantly, but it suddenly decides it doesn't like being vertical anymore now. I've got three of you, so I've got Gillian. This is a good lesson for you, now you'll enjoy this. It's a bit like a different one that I did, but we're just going to spend a bit more time on this concept because you can get some beautiful artwork this way. So, I think because I've started a bit late, because I had a bit of a disaster, I ought to get going really. Just very quickly, I also do private lessons, so if anyone's interested, I'll do clinics where I'll do 10 minutes with you or half an hour with you about a specific artwork. And I've known numbers of people already, if you look on my website, Facebook, TripAdvisor will say that I'm really good at that. I'll pick it up as many times as you need to help you afterwards as well. And I also do the full course. Full course is 3 hours of sketch and psychology, and that was the progress of a 10-year-old girl not copying. That's normal for anyone. 3 hours on perspective. Even architects said they can't believe what they learn. 3 hours on paint and brush technique. 5 lesson progress 90-year-old stroke victim. 4 lesson progress 50-year-old German lady, 3 lesson progress 40-year-old Sri Lankan man. So it's nothing like any other art course that you've been on. It's all to do with teaching you what I call the grammar, spelling and punctuation of art. So anyway, we will commence. Now, I hope it doesn't make you buzz too much, but I'm going to have to use the light box a bit. But what I want to do today is I've been working with a student the last few weeks, and she's not up there yet, but she might watch later. And one of the things that I know that she's particularly struggling with is the whole concept of light and shade. And so most people are very, very dainty about light and shade, and they sort of want to draw an outline and then they'll just shade a little bit around the edges and that's it. So if you were drawing me and my arm, let's say, you suddenly like draw my arm and then you put a little bit of shade there and a little bit of shade there and you somehow think that's doing it. And the truth is, it isn't. Contrast and light and shade are far more dramatic and they're far more important to the whole psyche of how we see, how our optic nerve works. So you actually have to do a lot more work on it, and you have to really look for the real light and the real shade. So you can't just fiddle around with an outline and I've done a little bit of shade there, that will cover it. If you want to get really dramatic artworks, you need to take it as far as you can. Now, I did think about taking you down in the garden to see what I'm doing, and maybe I'll do that after I've done this lesson, but I'm down there painting at the moment. And I'm completing that picture of the 2 children on the beach, which I've held up before. But the biggest problem is that you get involved in colour and you start to forget the light and shade. But it's the light and shade that makes the person appear three-dimensional. So it's all well and good saying I've got a lime green t-shirt on today, but quite honestly that is nowhere near as interesting or as important as the fact we've got shadows and folds, and like where my arm's here, we're getting a shadow. All those things are actually far more key to a good picture than the colour. The colour's almost irrelevant and we forget that. So we're going to worry completely and only about light and shade. Now, the other day in the lesson that I was doing, I showed you how we could paint across colour matching using a photo, but that was here, and this was where the line goes across, and that was where the magazine ended, and then I started painting. And it's a really good way of making it. But here, you wouldn't really know which bit I painted and which bit was the photograph. And that's a good way of matching your colours. What we're going to worry about today, though, is matching and looking at contrast. And this was a picture that I showed you in that other lesson, but we didn't do anything more with. Now this one is a classic picture of showing you how this very high definition of light to dark actually lets you see the whole face without having to put a lot more effort into it. Whereas if I just show you a very faint face that somebody's drawn, then it doesn't give you very much. This, you actually already know a lot about the person's personality. You would imagine her as quite strong, quite in control, very feminine. There's all sorts of assumptions and storytelling you can make by this because it's so simple. Now, in fact, you can simplify it back even further. And yet again, what I would suggest you do is take it to a window. I'm going to take it to my light box and show you. The light box might judder a bit at you, but it's the only way you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So my apologies. In fact, because that's such a thick piece of paper, I know it is going to work, so that's all right. So I'm just going to turn you around to the light box. And there you go. And then I'm going to use a black pen. And I'm just going to shift my chair over, so I'm over near it. Oops, there we go. And I'm going to pop the picture up. And the minute I get it up there, you can see, especially if I bring you a bit closer, you can see the person's face. Now, I'm going to do this quickly so you don't have to look at the light box for very long. But holding that up there, all I'm going to do, and this you should do in pencil always first, I'm only doing it in pen so you can see, is I'm outlining the very dark bits. And in fact, what I just outlined was the shadow around her eye, and that little white bit that I'm leaving white just there is the highlight on her glasses. And all I'm doing in this picture is defining that it's either absolutely black or white, and these are going to be my only choices in this picture. So this time round, I'm either going to make the decision that what I'm looking at is black or what I'm looking at is white, and it is that simple, and I'm not going to make it any more difficult. Now, if I'm into an area where I can't make that decision because it's grey, then I have to make the decision, is it nearer to black or nearer to white? So her mouth is definitely nearer to black, so that's going to go in as black. This shadow down her nose here is definitely nearer to black, so I'm going in around that. And that bit of her nostril is definitely nearer to black. This piece here on her cheek is actually very, very dark as well. And really, I think that's most of the very dark bits now that I've found. And here, that goes across there. There's a very light bit there. And that's that. So when I take it away, I'll bring it back to the board where it won't make your eyes judder. Oops, sorry, I'm now telling you upside down. There we go, back to the main board. And now if I bring the chair back again, you'll be able to see that by just defining those parts, if I use a black pen now and fill in everything that was black, you could do this in paint, you could do this in felt pens, you can do it in black crayon. But what I'm going to do is be very, very accurate where I'm going, but I'm going to fill in the whole of this area black. So that was her glasses, and you need to fill it in solidly. I'm leaving that white bit there that was the line on her glasses. I'm leaving that little white light there, but I'm just going to mark round it so that we know it was a light on the glasses. And then fill her in. And basically fill her in up to these edges the whole way round. And I don't want the black line showing, this should be fully filled in. And all of this will go into being black. That bit there was white, so I'm going to leave that little bit there white. That was the line on her glasses. All of this background in this case is black. The shadow on her nose is black. The shadow on her cheek here was black, and her mouth was black. Now I should be doing this a lot more accurately than I am, but you can already see the whole face appearing. Now, just for speed's sake, I'm going to now show you that if I just cut this out, because the whole background on this would be black, so I'm just going to cut out now around the bit that would be white, and all the rest of it we already know is going to be black. So instead of colouring it all in, which is going to take me a while, but would be one way of doing it, I'm just going to cut out everything and put it straight onto black, and you can already see how you're getting an amazingly strong image of this person. Now you could potentially then add a bit of colour to it later if you wanted to, but the fact you've brought it down to black and white means that it's actually got an awful lot more 3D to it. Now, another trick would be to use this on the black paper as a template, and I happen to have got a piece of chalk here, and this isn't an option I suggested with the equipment you've got, but it's just as always showing you options. So with the piece of chalk, what I could do is actually chalk the back of this picture that I've copied, or even the original picture, put chalk on the back of it, which will give me some places to work from. Grab a pencil, and this time you won't be able to see as I do it, but I'll show you. So I'm going to put her on the paper now. If I draw around the edges, where I press, the chalk will make a mark. So it's a quick way of getting a defined mark on the edges. And I'm just marking where she's dark. This was her dark mouth. And here is the dark bit on the cheek, dark bit round the glasses, dark nostril, dark bit on the nose, collected to the dark bit on the glasses again, white hole, and then the top white of her head. Now with any luck, that should have left me, you can see it's left me a thin white line where I put the chalk on the back. Now if I grab my scissors and cut, in this case, the white bits out, so the cheek and all of this was white. So as always, I'm folding it in half and cutting into the white bit. If you cut really carefully, you could keep both the positive and the negative, but I'm just going to leave you with the negative today. I'm cutting out the white bits and leaving only the black bits. So the whole background was black, so I'm leaving that bit. I'm cutting round her face at the moment. That bit's black, so that's staying, so I'm leaving all the black bits up round the glasses, round the nose. But I'm cutting out basically anything that's white and only leaving everything that was black. And this would be what yours would look like if you painted it in, or if you had a better felt pen than I did. That's one bit out now. Now if I cut the other bit on the forehead out, so I've just snipped from a fold into the forehead. I'm chopping out the white bit here. Now the picture I chose had very, very high definition, so you could very easily see where the light and the dark was. But you could choose one where the definition was nothing like as strong, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. This little bit here was that white bit on the glasses, so I need to snip that out. So, oops, sorry. I'm just going to cut around that bit on the glasses. And obviously a smaller pair of scissors would be better. And so it goes on. But at the same time, this is giving you lots and lots of ideas to work with, which is what I like doing. I don't want to do it all for you. And it's the same, well, it's not the same, it's similar to my art lessons that I do, which is I give you all the core facts that you need, and then I'm there to support you afterwards. I don't hold your hand to draw every picture because I want you to do it. And one of the students, at least, that's up there at the moment, I haven't looked at all the names for a moment, oh, lots of you actually, have done a number of lessons with me, and you know that your artwork is all in very unique styles, and I just support what you're doing. And if you get stuck or you forget something or you're getting frustrated because you can't remember how to do something, I'm always there to help. And I'm sure a couple of you wouldn't mind putting up comments to agree with that. Now, I've chopped out the face, and if I put it up there now, you can start seeing her already. I'm just going to tip that over there. And if I put her up like this, you can already see the lady coming because you're seeing her white. And now I've got this bit that's got her mouth and her cheek and her nostrils, so I need to just chop those out and then stick them up on the whiteboard in the right place. Now, if I put her mouth up there now, you can start seeing her arrive immediately. I'm going to put the dark curve on her cheek up. I used to love doing these. When I was at art school, we did a lot of work on this. It's a very good way of making you realise just how dark and light things need to be to make them work. So there's her bit on her cheek, and then I need just her nostril. Oh, I think I put that one on the wrong side. I think that was the other side. It was over there. That said it was there. Oops. So there goes the bit on her cheek. And then we'll just do her nostril quickly and put that in, and you'll be amazed that the nostril itself is enough to define the entire nose. So the nostril goes up, the mark on the cheek, and you can now see the entire woman. And that is literally just black and just white. Now I've got another picture here that I had a second ago, and I'm not going to do all of it for you today. I'll let you use your imaginations a bit, but this was one that I found in a magazine. Now a good trick like this would be to actually take a black and white photocopy of it, because that helps you define those areas. Now this one, you could very easily do black, white, and white, and white, but then you maybe would choose this time to also do grey. So what it's doing is getting your brain used to the fact that you've got to limit yourself to the 3 tones. So this one, we've only got black and white. This one, we've got black, white, and potentially grey. Or alternatively, you might decide to make these parts black. And if you did it, you will find that your picture will be more 3D than probably anything else you have ever done in your life, and actually have more impact. Like she looks like a Russian spy or something there. So that's another idea. You could do this of people in your own family. So you could take a photograph of your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, uncle, aunt, husband, wife, whatever, and then turn them into a black and white photo, and then turn them into something really high contrast. So either direct black, direct white, or else go through black, white, grey. And you could do that, and you get some amazing images, and it forces you to accept just how little information we need to understand what the picture's about, but we need the correct information. Most of us have this idea that to do this, outline a face, and then colour into it is somehow going to have greater impact. Whereas I'm sure already, I'm sorry, a mouth just dropped off, you can see that this one, here it is, this one you already are getting the full story of the person, whereas with that, it's not telling you anything. But by actually going into this high definition of it's definitely dark or it's definitely light, and then on the face as well, this side of the face is going to be dark, this side of the nose maybe is going to be dark up to that cheek. Already you start getting something more of a three-dimensional image, and around the mouth. And if you bring those shadows and light into the background as well, and the hair, very, very quickly, a person that was very flat and very boring is starting to pop out as much more 3D. Now, I've not finished that completely, but you can see it happening rapidly. So please keep that in mind. The picture of the grey one would be then working black, white or grey. Now, I thought of this for two reasons. One, because of the lesson that we were doing, but it also reminded me of an artwork which was done by one of my daughter's friends for her what's called HSC, which is the Australian Examination Board. And this girl did exactly this, but instead of doing it only black or only white, she did it in a number of shades of grey. So you can, I think it's a good idea to start off maybe doing the picture purely as black and white like that one. Then do it as black, white and grey. Then maybe do it as black, white, dark grey and light grey, and work your way through. Now this girl did these. And if you look at them closely, you can see they are areas again. And it's almost like she's done a contour map of the person's face, and then she's decided, is it black, is it white, or is it this grey, or is it that grey? And these pictures were just amazing. It was one of my daughter's friends did that as her artwork. And it ended up in this amazing magazine that I've always loved. It's called Art Express, and it's something that Australia does. And that was the colour version of it, which is another option when you take it into everything. She did this one here between red and white. So she did it either as red or white. And she's used black in all of them, kind of black and red to make it the darker bit, and down to white. So she's gone through a whole spectrum of colours, but using this same theory of what is it and define it exactly. Because when we start shading, we forget that even the shade has different tones to it. So it's a way of making you remember that. There's another nice one here that I found where someone's worked through from blue to white. And they've just taken it, well, black through blue and white. And all of that, again, has just been done in areas. Is it black? Is it blue? Is it white? Only options. Simplify it down and look at the depth, emotion and 3D you get. Whereas we're so busy just going, it's red or it's green, that we forget those things. Now, these books that they did over in Australia were done based on the best artwork from each A-level year group. And they're just the most amazing books to look at. I sometimes lend them to students because they're just so interesting, and some of the ideas in it. And these were like the best from a year group from beginning of the century. But here again, they've kind of gone for this black, white, or in this case it's cream, but they've actually added texture to it. But by simplifying down, you get some really, really staggeringly impressive pictures. So we could do it black and white and grey, or black and white and light grey, dark grey, but kind of mapping out the areas. And it suddenly makes you realise how much really good art is about the argument between shadows and light. It isn't the colour so much. And interestingly enough, the old masters, when they used to work in oil paint, used to do most of their underwork as tonal change, just to define where the shadows and light were, and then they used washes of colour over that tonal change to then define the colour. So they defined the colour only by putting washes that you could see through to the tonal change underneath. And in fact, going back to the picture I'm just finishing off in the garden, that was exactly what I did with the children on the beach. It started off purely as a tonal change exercise, and all I've been doing is putting breezes of colour over it and just building up the films of colour that you're seeing through the colour to the impact like that. So keep that in mind. Another way you could use something like this, though, would be to actually stick a piece of tissue paper behind it in another colour, maybe red, green, blue, whatever takes your fancy, and actually stick it in a window, and they can look really impressive. And if you wanted to go through the tonal change thing, then you could use a series of, say, 1 layer of blue, 2 layers of blue, 3 layers of blue to get the different definitions, because obviously where you put 3 layers of blue tissue paper, you're going to get a stronger blue than where you only put 1. So a lot of things for you to think about, but it's mainly look at the contrast between light and shadow in your pictures. Don't look at the lines. So again, even if I stand up for a minute, instead of defining the lines in me, start seeing where's it light, where's it dark. And that dark shadow there under my arm will have more impact on your picture than a number of the lines will. And you can see the shadows my hands are casting on my top when I'm moving them around. Those shadows are actually even more important than my hands, because they're letting you know how far away and near my hand is to myself. And it's a whole area where people just basically forget it. Now, as I said I wasn't going to do, I've just gone and given away a whole lot of big secrets again. And so I will go back to toilet rolls and get things soon. But if you do the full-on lessons with me, you will understand a lot of this stuff by the end of it. But also the minute I say it, you'll get it, because we've already covered it in some description. But basically, look for the real light and the real dark in your pictures. Stop being firstly interested in the colour. And if the student in question is watching at the moment, I hope you've learnt. I don't think you are, so I might be sending you a message in a minute, but anyway. So go and have some fun with that. As I said, a really good trick is to just take a photo of yourself, a loved one, hold it up against the window, and then just trace off the light and dark areas. The other thing is, this is my lady that we just did here, and I could, of course, use the reverse bits and do her in negatives. So this was the bit I chopped off, and the other bit of her head has now disappeared on the floor here somewhere. You should see around my feet, I've got bits of paper everywhere, but that's, then you could have done the reverse version of her with the bits that were left over, particularly if you used a knife and a cutting board to cut it out. So have a go with that, but if nothing else, the simplest version of it, and I think actually the most effective, is do it in black and white. Make yourself decide, and don't just say like the whole of my face is white. No, it's not. There's some really black bits here, there's some black bits around my eyes, this black bit here is defining where my nose is, my mouth is black, under here is quite black at the moment, round back of my hair here's black. So don't just get lulled into going skin's white, shadows are black. It's not that easy. You need to look harder, and you'll learn lots by doing that. But for the children watching, just bring it down to black and white, and do that sometimes for your art homework, and you'll get amazing marks. So there you go. Anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed it. Please send me some comments and messages. It's always nice to hear from you. And I might set the camera up in a minute and let you see what I've been doing downstairs, but I've been painting all the last few days a lot, and I've got another 3 paintings to get done actually. I've got a commission as well that's come in this week, so that's all good. So if anyone wants a commission, dogs, cats, people, seascapes, whatever else, and any interest in the lessons, let me know, and I'm always happy to answer questions, no obligation, so feel free to ring me and just ask. I'm always happy to help and give you ideas if you're running short of them. But there we go. You can have some play with that, positive, negative, shadows and light, different areas of shadows, and then throwing it into colour like my daughter's friend did when she did her exams in Australia. There we go. Take care. Bye.